All right, we ready? Okay. Hey, team. Welcome back to another episode of the Jenn Commandments podcast. I am your host, Jenn Wien. I'm an engineer currently working in Wisconsin, and I grew up in the Chicagoland area. Hey, what's up? How are you? Today's currently Saturday for me, and it's mildly blizzarding. So that's super cool. Dante's at daycare right now. Saturdays are a little bit calmer. And so if you don't know Dante, he is a very shy boy. And so today he did not drag all the way into the building. He just dragged once we got in there. So I feel he's acclimating. Today's his fourth time. He's acclimating. We'll see. I need him to get sort of used to other people because I'm going on an international trip during summer. So I need to make sure that he's well. Lots happened this week. Lots of new discoveries, lots of new findings. One, I went and saw the Chromacopia World Tour. Let me just. All right. So if you're not watching YouTube right now, I'm showing my little fancy little new hoodie. It says complete identity transformations. Fool everyone you know. 800 try mask. And I don't know. It's very dope. Love her. Super grateful. It was beautiful. It was stunning. It was the second show of the Chromacopia World Tour. Tyler, the creator, is one of my favorite artists. And has been since high school. So, love him down. So, anyway, there's that. And then also, I signed up for a improv class that starts at the end of the month, which is super cool, super exciting. I think that's something that's going to make me super uncomfortable, and therefore I should do it. That's, it's a creative muscle that I would like to flex. And so we'll see if I'm any good at it. And it's only 6 weeks. So if I hate it, I never have to do it again. And then also it's at the Comedy Club in Green Bay. And so I will have a comedy club that I'm comfortable in case I want to start doing open mics. So that's super cool. I'm really excited about that. Yeah. So that's my personal life. I've been in sort of like a rut this week. I got my period at the beginning of the week. Not my pants getting caught in my chair. I got my period at the beginning of the week, and I've just been like sitting in it. Ew, not like that, but I've just been like, also sort of, but anyway, I've just been slumped, sort of, other than going to that concert. I mean, that took up a big part of my like mental space this week, like making sure that I got everything done beforehand and like whatever, right? But I don't know. I had a lot of fun this week. Other than that, just something that it was a low energy week. Like I only worked out twice, just like that sort of stuff, you know. But there are times where I'm going to have lower energy and I can't be hard on myself for it. Oh, ha ha ha. We're trying our best, you know. No, but I'm doing fine. But I'm gonna get back on my shit this week. I rearranged my room this morning. Oh, my downstairs neighbors probably hate me. I should probably get them like flowers or like bake them like cookies or something. Because I was up at like, I don't know, 6 o'clock moving furniture in my room. I don't know. I just like I'm one of those people who moves their furniture like every 2 months. I like feeling new energy in a space. I really like this layout. I just got done with it today. I thought about it last night. I think the reason why I was like, you're gonna change this was like while I was sleeping last night, the heater was originally like right over top of me, like where the heat comes out. And I was like, fuck that. Like, my face is still red. I really struggle with, I call it artificial heat. Let's get into some fucking sensory issues. No, but I do. I struggle with like heat that comes from a heater. It like feels heavy and like if I'm in it for too long, I need to go outside and get fresh air. Like I really struggle. I'll like get my, even for the show, like I will get my apartment warm enough. This is like my daily routine. We're going to talk about Jordan Peele today, just so you know. But skip ahead if you want to hear about it for real. But if you don't want to talk about my sensory issues, fucking boring. Anyway, yeah. So even like my daily routine is like throughout. I like go into like work mode where I'm like, you know, because I work from home. So I'm stagnant sort of. I try to get up like every 45 minutes. I bought one of those steppers on TikTok. And I do that. So like when I'm not focused anymore and I want to take a break, I'll like go step on that until like I'm sick of that and then I go back to working. But I try to get up like every 45 minutes. But other than that, like I'm sitting and working on a computer. So I during the day my heat stays to like I don't know 72, and that's even, I know that that's like cool to some, that's hot to me. Like my face is red, you know. um and then Dante really likes going out on the deck, and so he gets to go, he has free reign like in and out, um starting in the afternoon, and then I let it like cool out throughout the day. I'm a fucking nerd when it comes to that. I'm like such a dad. It's so annoying. Yeah, I'm very dad coded in the thermostat way. Anyway, um, so today, anyway, we're gonna discuss Jordan Peele today, and we're gonna discuss my viewpoint on how I think that he changed the trajectory of psychological horror with Get Out. And we're going to get into some of those symbols. So it's going to be like sort of Jordan Peele, sort of Get Out, like that sort of thing. I'll probably sprinkle in some other Jordan Peele work in there, but um Get Out was also a very formative movie for me growing up. um, One, it was sort of the first commentary that I understood its symbols in it, from a non, like, I don't know. Like, it was one of the first times where I applied the things that I learned in analyzing literature and analyzing media in school and applied it to a movie that wasn't assigned to me, probably. It's probably one of those first ones. And then also, it was such a fun experience to go see it in the movie theater back when it came out. I think it came out in 2017. I have a poster in my kitchen that I can go look at if I really care. We were the only, me, my boyfriend, and my roommate at the time. We were the only white folk in there, and it was just like a one, it was funny because like when we first walked in, I can tell that they're like, "You really trying to be here for real?" Because it was like opening weekend too. Like it was a big to do that this movie was coming out. Like Get Out was highly anticipated. Like I remember I was really excited to go see it. And I was familiar with Jordan Peele because of Key and Peele. And oh my god, I don't know, we were probably of the most vocal people in there, and I think that we won over the crowd. I That's another thing that I'd like to discuss, and I don't know if this is a safe space to discuss it, because I'm putting it on the internet. I like the sort of me and one of my best friends talk about this a lot, of the like, you sort of have to earn your respect a little bit if you're a white person entering black spaces. And I really appreciate that, because I am also somebody that you have to earn my respect for me to accept you, I think. And I don't know if earning my respect is the right way to put it, but there is a level of like, um I don't know how to say this in a way that like isn't cunty. Uh, but like, you really have to I'm going to give you shit upon the first few times meeting you. I'm going to be antagonistic a little bit, and if you can be antagonistic back in a way that makes me understand that we can have that sort of banter, that's sort of my initiation, sort of. I don't know if that even makes sense, but like, I feel that most times black folk probably feel that way about white folk entering their spaces, and as they should, for all the reasons that we talked about last week. That's a very that's common. And so I love those opportunities. Nothing gives me validation more than a black person being like, all right, well, I've accepted you. That gives me some serotonin and some joy, dopamine that you will never understand. So yeah, and I think that that started for me my freshman year of high school. If we're being honest, I think that the first time I experienced that in a way that I was like conscious of it was my freshman year of high school, when I played basketball. I was the only white person. So you are the minority in the space, bitch. And like, so that was the first time I was ever consciously like, okay, I implore you to be the only one of something in a space. Whether that be like color, gender, or whatever. I implore you to be the only one in a space, and to take a back seat in that space and sort of figure out how to fit into that space without making it about yourself, if that makes sense. And I think obviously even when I was in high school, I didn't do a great job of that, but I was, 14. So do you like the new space that we unlocked here? Okay. Actually, let me shut the fuck up. So anyway, um, today we're going to be discussing Get Out, and we're going to be discussing Jordan Peele. We discussed my first encounter with Get Out, and then there was this sort of phenomenon where people made YouTube videos. There was like analyses. There'd be like posts on Facebook, like 10 things you didn't notice in Get Out. And yeah, I mean, I was the target audience for all that shit. Like, I love analyzing media. I love analyzing things. Love Get Out. So, what we're going to be talking about is the rise of Jordan Peele. We're going to talk about like Key and Peele, whatever, whatever. We're going to break down the influence a little bit, because, like, listen, after Get Out came out, then Hereditary came out, then like certainly there was a gory horror, and I don't like gory horror. I am not somebody who watches like a Chainsaw Massacre and is like, that was a great time. Like, I don't care about your fake blood. I don't give a fuck about any of that. Um I think we see enough of those horrors day to day that I don't really seek that in my media, which is weird because I do seek psychological realness in my media, just not gory realness in my media. So that's that on that. And then we'll also talk a little bit about the ripple effect of psychological, whatever. Anywho, so So let's discuss Jordan Peele. So I have a couple notes about him. I said he was a well-known figure. We discussed that. He had Key and Peele, and but that weirdly, Key and Peele is comedy. Like, we knew Jordan Peele as a comedian. We did not know him as a director, and a director of a horror film, no less. So, but however, I think there is a lot of crossover between comedy and psychological and horror, just like horror in general. Psychological horror more than gory horror, but like, I think both genres rely on observation. They rely so to be good at either one, it relies on a very distinct understanding of people, a distinct understanding of sociology, psychology, and anthropology. And so if I had to guess, I think that the jump from one to the other, uh, other than the fact that like one is probably much more traumatizing to create art of, I think that that jump might not be that difficult once you switch your brain, and figure out, make that jump. It's sort of like writing a resume. Like, you have to get yourself in that headspace, but once you're in that headspace, we're gonna rock the fuck out. So that's the tea on that. So when Jordan Peele decided that he wanted to make a directorial debut, nobody at the time really knew what was next for him. So let's go to good old Wikipedia. Let's look up Jordan Peele. So it says Jordan Hayworth Peele was born in February. I always do that. I say in February instead of on February 21st, 1979. I did that last week too. And that's why I had to like stop myself and be like, he was born in Compton. And every time I watched it back, I was like, so he started his career in sketch comedy. If you are not familiar with Jordan Peele, you will be familiar with Jordan Peele if you look up the Aaron skit. That is probably his most famous work. Um, which is funny. I love that the Aaron skit is so popular, because like the audience that was thought it was so funny. It's like it was weird because like the commentary is like, I don't know, white folk being as white as possible trying to pronounce unique names. Like, that's the commentary, right? And then like the whitest people ever thought that that skit was hilarious, even though they are like, maybe that the joke is that they're laughing at themselves, maybe that. But like, I think for a lot of folks it's not that self-aware. I read something somewhere that was like 20% of people are self-aware, and it's like, bitch, you don't even know why that's funny, huh? But that's neither here nor there. So Peele's breakout role came in 2003 when he was hired as a cast member on the Fox sketch comedy Mad TV, where he spent 5 seasons, leaving the show in 2008. So then he decided to have his own sketch comedy series with Keegan Michael Key called Key and Peele, which was from 2012 to 2015. It's won Emmys, and a Peabody Award. And then they also wrote, produced, and starred in a comedy film called Keanu. I personally have not seen Keanu, but would love, would love to see. So next we have 2017, which is his directorial debut in the horror film Get Out. So let's go to the Get Out page, dude. Okay, so also fun fact, so if you have Marcus Theaters near you, first of all, you're blessed. I love a dream lounger. I love a dream lounger. I am, if you didn't know this about me, the movie theater is one of my third places. I go to the theater probably, I don't know, at least once a week and at most 3 times a week. um, I love going to the movies. And there's almost always deals. Like they do like a Marcus Theater specifically, not sponsored. I get like 10 listeners a podcast. In case that wasn't obvious, I so on Mondays they do like a mystery Monday movie, and it's some movie that's coming out that following Friday, and they show it. You don't know what it is beforehand, and it's $5. So that's dope. I love when they do that because I don't really care about. I don't like. I will see any movie truly. And then what else? Tuesdays is their cheap day. So if you're a member of their rewards program, you can do like a movie and free popcorn for like $6.50 or something. Um, and then this month they're doing a Black History Month special, and they're playing a lot of Jordan Peele's work, and then they're also showing other, they have like Black Panther in there. They have like a Black History Month special. You could get like a passport, which you can see 3 for $20, or sorry, I'm like deep in the Marcus lore, but you can see 3 for $20, or they're like $6.50 each. And I only like, I love Us in its own way, but I own all of the Jordan Peele movies, so that was just not one that I was willing to go see again. So I didn't get the passport, but I did go see Get Out in theaters again. I already knew that I was going to do this episode, but it was cool that it was like available to me to see, to take notes on in the theater. So that was fun. And basically, let me open my notes for that I took while I was in there. There was only 3 of us in there. It was me and 2 other men, and like um I was sitting in the very back row, and there was nobody else in the back row with me, so I just had my phone out the whole time I was taking notes. This has been out for like, years. So it starts out with a random Black man talking on the phone in a rich neighborhood. And then you see him sort of get abducted from this rich neighborhood. And then you're also shown, then it shows like the Get Out title sequence, and then it cuts to our protagonist's apartment, and Redbone is playing in the background. I originally, out in my living room right now, I thought I was going to record in the living room today, but I have my Childish Gambino. What is the name of that record? Is it me, the day me and your mama met, or something? What is that Red Bone album? Awaken My Love. I have that on vinyl, and it was supposed to be in the background, but know that I really be putting my whole brain into this episode, down to the details, bitch. Um so then, which also, Jordan Peele was my introduction to Childish Gambino and Donald Glover. Redbone is playing in the background. Redbone is beautiful. I being introduced to Awaken My Love through Get Out was one of the biggest blessings of Get Out, in my opinion. I needed this album. Also, we could talk about Awaken My Love another day. Me didn't know the name of it, but I'm like, this was so important to me. Some of my favorite songs ever are on this album. Me and Your Mama being one of them. Me and Your Mama changed my life. But we can talk about that another day. But just know. Just know. So, we're met with the protagonist then. His name's Chris. And we're listening to Redbone, and we're being shown Chris's photography. We don't know at the time that it's his artwork, but we're made to sort of understand pretty quickly. My notes say, he's so fine for real. And then on the next line it says, so is she. And yeah, they're both beautiful. What a beautiful couple. It's a shame that she's terrible because they're both hot. Um, I also wrote in here that that scene where they hit the deer and it's explicitly shown. Um, terrifying, terrifying. But like, when I was in the theater, I was thinking about it, and I was like, how did they do that? And I yeah, it was it. Um, I also wrote in here, I have admittedly been that sassy to a cop too. Yeah. So when the cop comes to, like, make sure that they're okay after they hit the deer, and like, whatever, record, I don't know what you do in that instance. But as they were doing that, the cop is like, sir, can I see your ID as well? Okay, also, I didn't give enough context. If you don't know, he's black, she's white. The whole premise of the movie is a commentary on how white folks use and abuse black culture, and if they could, would literally be black folk. It covers the topic of our obsession with black culture, especially in United States society. So the cop comes. He's like, sir, I'm gonna have to see your ID. And homegirl's like, the fuck you don't, bitch. Like, he didn't do anything. I was driving. And so the fuck you don't need his ID. Why? Why would you need his ID? I've been there. I have also been the white woman in the room, so to speak. And I'll leave it at that. I've been her. So I also wrote in my notes, as soon as they pull up to the estate, it gives plantation. I don't know if it's just me, but every time I see pillars, I think of a plantation. I don't know. And I don't know if there's an example of pillars in a home that wouldn't make me think of that. I just don't think I could ever see an estate that has pillars and not immediately think of a plantation, the White House included. Okay, then also the dad immediately starts spitting anti-deer propaganda. And I don't know why I worded it like that, but yeah, as soon as they come in, they're like, we hit a deer on the way. He says, good. Fuck them people. Not fuck them people. That's the subtext of like, you're seeing slowly already, like right upon meeting him, that he doesn't care about life, and you're meant to notice, if that makes sense. It's like, it's meant to be abrasive and like in your face, that he's like, fuck them deers. He also immediately oversteps boundaries. I forget the explicit instance, but like, basically, oh, so homeboy Chris, he smokes cigarettes also. And that's like a big problem to the family. They're like anti-cigarette. They're anti-nicotine. And I get it. Um, I love me a good drunk cig. But also, and homegirl, the plantation mom, um, she's like, I be doing therapy and I be hypnotizing motherfuckers. And immediately they're like, I could hypnotize you and have you get rid of your nicotine habit. And he's like, the fuck, you are not getting in my head. That's some white people shit. Immediately he's like, that's some white people shit. And the dad specifically, the mom was a little less pushy, but the dad specifically was very like, nasty habit, I kicked, like, showing that he did not give a fuck about Chris's boundary. Like, Chris was clearly uncomfortable and clearly like, nah, and they were like, well, we'll continue to try to talk you into it anyway. So there. I also wrote in here, the score for this movie is really dope. Like, the music overall, and it like, not even, it was like, obviously, yes, Redbone and like the pop, like the the real music, like the music with words, but also just like the score, like when stressful things are happening and you hear that little crash and you're like like they use music well. Additionally, um the father brings up, so there's a picture of his father, so plantation dad's dad, right? And there's like, so they're showing him pictures, and the plantation dad is like, hey, um my father got beat by Jesse Owens. And he goes on to talk about how he thinks, Jesse Owens is like the baddest ever. He's cool, like coolest guy to ever do it. Showed Hitler up at the Olympics, blah, 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 right? But he also says, yes, he almost got over it. What is that supposed to mean? I'd never noticed that before. This was the first time I'd noticed that wording. He almost got over it. Foreshadowing. We also noticed that the only people of color at the estate are in service roles. So as they're driving up, they see like homeboy chopping wood, but he has like a very distant stare on his face. That makes sense. Distant look in his eye. I don't know. He homeboy was not all the way there. And then we also see the maid, and she sort of just like acts weird. And then also she accidentally spills, and then like plantation mom is like, bitch, go rest. Obviously you need some rest. And you're like, okay. Woo. All right. Okay. Crazy. So then I also have in here, so homeboy, okay. So then that's all on the first night. So then they go to bed, and homeboy tries to sneak out to smoke a cigarette. Chris is like, these white people are crazy and I need to smoke about it, as you should. If I was a nicotine addict and I was meeting my in-laws who then happened to be on a plantation, who only had service people around that looks like me and sort of want to hypnotize me, I think that I would also want a cigarette. um so he goes outside, and then immediately the maid, and then just like the outdoor, like, what is that, a groundskeeper, a landscaper, I don't know, whatever his role is technically, he has weird interactions with both of them. If you haven't seen the movie, I don't want to give it up, because like the tension that this scene builds is magical, and I think it would be a disservice for me to not to explain it. I think you should just see it for yourself. So go watch it if you haven't already. But so he has some weird interactions with them. He gets so spooked. Homeboy doesn't smoke the cigarette, and he just goes inside. And then guess who's up? Guess who's up? Playing with her little teacup. Plantation mom. He sits down to talk with her a little bit, and then like she starts getting in his head, and uses his trauma to as a point of manipulation. So she starts to like get in his head and be like, and he starts to discuss that his mom passed away. Like, she got into, if I'm remembering right, she got into like a car accident, and she when he found out, he was so paralyzed by the moment of like finding out that like your mom was in like a car accident or whatever, that he was just paralyzed with fear, with like, if I don't do anything, that means that it's not real. Like, he was really, I mean, he was a kid, he was like 10 years, I don't know, they depict him pretty young. I'm not good with guessing ages, but they depict him young. And so she really starts to get in his head as it relates to discussing the trauma that he's faced. And then she gets that's how she does the hypnotism. And she's like, go to the sunken place. Right? She does the little and he goes to the sunken place. And I wrote in here, using the sunken place as a metaphor to try fit into white society or doing things you may not always do to fit in is beautiful and well portrayed. So, like, for example, even doing the hypnotism shit, you're trying to do shit to fit in. Like, and like, this is a discussion of not just fitting into white culture, but fitting into what's seen as proper or like professional culture or like whatever. I think professionalism is rooted in oppression. And so I don't really believe in professionalism. I think we work a job 40 hours a week at least. And so I think it would be a disservice to oneself to not show up as a version of yourself. And like, it doesn't have to be the full version of yourself, but I think that what it's trying to portray of like stripping yourself of the things that make you unique and whatever to fit into what's considered high society, like whatever you view as what you're trying to fit into, whether that be white society, whether that be socioeconomic higher society. Like, for example, when I first entered my engineering program, and I still feel this way, but especially when I first entered, I was automatically given a scholarship for being a part of the paper engineering program at Western. And many of my peers, when we had to do like scholarship dinners, when we had to do those networking events that required a level of comfortability in those quote unquote professional settings, I felt very insecure and I felt very resentful towards the people who seemed like it came easy to. Like, I could tell that maybe they had been going to these sorts of events since they were little, maybe with their family or whatever. And I think for a long time, I tried to act like them in order to make myself feel less embarrassed, I guess, of the things that I didn't. All right. We're always going to run into technical difficulties. There is no way that that angle is completely the same. But know that for some reason, I think my phone started to overheat, which is like normal. Like, it's a lot to ask a phone, I think, to like record, to be hooked up to, like, it's a lot. Especially an iPhone that overheats when it charges. So, yeah. I forget what I was talking about. I think I was talking about being insecure in college for not um for feeling less than my peers. And I think I noticed that once I started to embrace the things about myself that are just inherently true, um and using those things to my advantage opposed to trying to be something that I'm not, I've found much more success. And that's just to let you know that, like, I understand why you would try to go to the sunken place or whatever to um be so trapped in your life experiences that you think that in order for anything positive to come, that you would have to be something completely different. However, I do think that your life experiences are the things that make you who you are, and if you don't honor those things, um you'll find that it comes out in bad ways, you know. for example, even if we want to take Get Out as a commentary of that, like that's up to your interpretation. Like it's not, it's not something I'm super comfortable talking about because it's still not something that I'm completely over. I guess it's still not. I think the imposter syndrome of it all is still something that it is in society as a woman or in society as a minority, as a black person or any other person of color, if you are marginalized in any way, I think that it's easy to want to act like the people who aren't the marginal, like I don't know what I'm trying to say in like a way that makes sense. What I'm trying to get at is like, listen, you are the things that the reason why humanity works the way it does is because we're all different. And unfortunately, we've been conditioned to pin those differences against each other. But I think I think we'd be rather bored if we were all the same. So I don't think that you need to be the white boy named Chad because we already have him. Unfortunately, we could do with less of them even, so I be yourself, I guess. Anywho, the sunken place is whatever you want it to be, and it is to mean um trying to fit into white culture. It is a commentary on 100 different things, and you are open to interpret it however you see fit, that's just the way I've interpreted it and allowed it to help. I think I'm going to find myself in every character and try to figure out what it's teaching me. I think that's that. So if you ever see me self-identifying with a character a little too much, sorry, I'm a narcissist or something. Also, I wrote in my notes, all the black people on the estate are a bit off, and Chris can't figure out why. He thinks his vibe is weird. So I mean that in the context of um so we do see a black man who, okay, so I didn't give you the context. So they happen to be there during a huge party and we find out later that it was very intentional that they were there that weekend, but um they are there for like a huge party, and we see a very extravagant display of wealth here. We see people getting driven in. We see people just like, wearing like their finest silks or whatever. I've been watching a lot of Little Women. Um, the Greta Gerwig version of Little Women, I has been my comfort movie for like the last 2 weeks, I don't know, I would say maybe a month even. I watch it basically every Saturday morning before I record this and whatever. So, finest silks. And we're seeing here there is one black man. And we notice, if you're paying attention, we notice that it's the same black man that we saw in the very opening sequence that got abducted from the rich neighborhood. It's that same man. We don't know that yet, but like we figure that out later. But if you're paying attention, you know for sure. If it's your first watch through, you wouldn't notice, or maybe you would. Maybe I'm just terrible, but I did not notice. Like I didn't put the two and two together. So we notice that it's the same guy, but he's acting different than what we saw of him at the very beginning. And we're like, And then Chris tries to take a picture of him to send to his homeboy. I haven't even really talked about his homeboy a lot, but like he is the comedic relief. He's like, the sidekick character, and he comes and saves the day at the end. And Chris tries to take a picture of this black man and is like, look at this like cracker ass bitch. Not, like, not that sounds, whatever, but for real, he takes a picture of the man and the flash accidentally goes off. And we're like, uh-oh. And then like homeboy throws a fit. Not Chris homeboy, but the other black man. So he starts to go and like he starts to scream in Chris's face, like, get the fuck out of here. Like, you need to leave. You needed to leave. Yes, you should have never came here. Get out. Um, and then homegirl, plantation mom, she decides to hypnotize him again. Is like, I need to get you back. You know what I mean? She cracks the whip in a metaphorical and basically, like hypnotist way. She cracks that whip. And now Chris really starts to panic. He's like, well, I don't really know if I should be here anymore. And then we find out that hot ass bitch is in on it. She's in on trapping this man. And like, so Chris finds out that his fine ass girlfriend is in on it. I also wrote my notes. I'm a fuck with a low register clarinet or bass clarinet every time. No other notes on that. So then so as we're finding out that homegirl is in on it, I don't even know her name. Once we find out that homegirl is in on it, we're also seeing a auction happen at the same time, and we're like, wait a second. Is Chris the one being auctioned? And he is, babe. He is. So they are silently auctioning body parts of Chris. So if we bring it back to earlier in that conversation while they're looking at pictures, he's like, he almost got over it. Yeah, he almost got over it. And what that means is he never got over it. And he created a business where he could take people's brain matter and switch it into white folks' body so that they can use literally use black people for their gain. That commentary is crazy. Very cool. It is so creative. It is so hyperbolic, but I hate to say it, it's so grotesque and like it's like Fresh. Have you ever seen Fresh? They both are similar in that it's disgusting what's happening, but in theory, given the correct quote unquote correct circumstances, it might not be that hyperbolic, like people are truly that crazy, and that we've seen it. We've seen what richness does on a mass scale to the human psychology. We see like that is also a commentary about what wealth does to your brain, like, and who's usually wealthy, who has hoarded wealth historically throughout all of time, So homegirl says you are one of my favorites. Also insane. Chris, once he is starting to put pieces together, he sees like an old shoebox full of like Polaroid pictures with homegirl with black people galore, like every part. Like we are under the pretense that like this is the first black man that homegirl has ever been with. Like we're told that at some point throughout the movie. But then we find out that shit's not real. And we find out in the shoebox discovery that like she used to be with the maid and she used to be with the groom, like not the groomsman, the the landscaper guy. We find out that like she is the one that's bringing these people to her family to literally like harvest. Crazy. You were one of my favorites is crazy. And then I wrote Rod comes to save the day. So here's what happened. As he's escaping, he hits the maid. I think it's the maid. And he hits the maid with the car, the getaway car, on accident. Like she's or it's the man. I don't know. Regardless, he's trying to get away. She's so like, I will get him for you. they're so under hypnotist that like she's like, you know, whatever, that she runs after him and she gets hit with a car, or he, I don't know, one of them, I fucking forget, I think it's the woman. But then she's also like, go get him, Papa. I don't remember. Anywho, she's still alive. And we know that Chris's trauma is because he never did anything to try to help save his mom. And he feels partially at fault for his mom dying because of that, that he has promised himself that he will never leave somebody near death again. Like that is something that that's a result of his trauma. And so he tries to put her in the car, even though that bitch is clearly still hypnotized. Um, and so she goes crazy, and then they have a little fight sequence, and then she's there, and then like homegirl's there, and they have a fight, like whatever. And then Rod pulls up, but Rod had to steal a cop car in order to go save Chris. Rod is the best friend that he has been in contact with. And Rod hated his white bitch ass girlfriend from the beginning. And not that he hated her, but like he was like, why are you dating a white girl? Like, that's not fucking safe, bitch. And at least not her. Like and what Rod, the tea is Rod is pulling up in a cop car, and we know the subtext of that is before we know it's Rod, we just think a cop is coming, and there's a black man that has killed two people. Like, you know, the historical context for cops would imply to the audience that like he should be scared. And so you're freaked the fuck out, and then you see it's Rod and you're like, thank God, you know. So yeah. Then also something I wanted to talk about and Get Out that I thought was crazy. So Rod, before he steals the cop car, he tries to go into the police station himself, and he tries to be like, hey, so here's XXXX, here's why I'm concerned, here's what's leading me towards this. And I would like help in investigating what happened to my friend. He knows also that there is that other guy. They know that other guy. And so Chris had sent that picture and it was like, he's been missing. And that in and of itself, the cops like listening to a story, giggling in his face, that's also a commentary about how we disproportionately have like black and brown people missing, and we don't care about them in this country. Like there has been a serial killer, I'm pretty sure, in Chicago that has been killing black women for like a long time, and like nobody's done anything about it. If I'm not talking out of my ass, I could be. I should look it up. What was I looking up? Serial killer in Chicago. Fox 32 Chicago. Silence Prey, Unsolved Strangulation Murders of Black Women in Chicago, 2022. Okay, so I'm not finding... We have a specific... So there are lots of unsolved female strangulations. But this specific article is about Myrna Walker. Myrna Walker and Nancy Walker. Nancy was the eldest of 6 siblings, and as a result would become a leader in life and in business. Nancy was an entrepreneur. She had many businesses. She was a dancer. She owned a beauty salon, houses, condos, townhomes, 2 flats, 3 flats, you name it, she had it. Her family said Nancy was a perfectionist, and she went missing in January 2003. Myrna tried to call her sister multiple times over the course of the next day. The two usually talked on the phone every night before bed. After failing to reach her, Myrna went to Nancy's condo, and everything inside was in perfect order. Oddly, her cell phone was still there. Nancy was not. I said, this is not good. So when we left her place and we went straight to the precinct to put in a missing persons report, That is where critical time was wasted. Myrna said, once police found out Nancy was from Englewood, the urgency was tempered with questions about her character. They stereotype people from Englewood, Myrna said. Everybody's a criminal. Everyone totes guns. They made us feel like we weren't worthy. It wasn't until Myrna got support from well-known Chicagoans, Delmarie Cobb Ald. What does Ald mean, A-L-D? Is that like alderman? Ald suffix meaning alderman. Got it. Okay. Sorry. Dorothy Tillman, and then Cook County Board Commissioner Tony Preckwinkle, that police started to finally listen. Then, 63 days after Nancy went missing, workers found 3 garbage bags along the Bishop Ford Expressway. I'm going to cut that, actually. We don't need to know the extent of Black trauma to understand that it's real and true. So each of these cases has been reviewed by detectives who are detailed to the FBI's Violent Crimes Task Force, and there is no evidence linking the cases to each other or to suggest there is a serial killer responsible for these homicides. Detectives are continuing to investigate the cases individually as we work to seek justice on behalf of the victims and their families, CPD spokesman Tom Ehrman said in a statement. Fox 32 will be looking deeper into the dozens of unsolved strangulation murders of Black women. In the coming weeks, we will talk more to more families left with no answers and no justice. From the Murder Accountability Project tracking these cases to longtime Chicago homicide detectives and tireless community activists who believe this is the work of one or more serial killers, we'll let you tell their theories and concerns about all the silence prey cases that have remained unsolved. That's crazy. So, just some more lore. Especially like many of my listeners are friends or, old. I know you in one capacity or another, and many of us are from the Midwest. And so these are things that are happening in our community. And so, yeah, I said I need to do more research about what the Sunken Place is symbolism for. So let's do that now. What is the Sunken Place symbolize and Get Out? AI overview. I don't want an AI overview. I want like a Black person telling me what they think. Get Out director Jordan Peele, explains the Sunken Place from The Wrap. What is the Sunken Place? Superficially, it's a brainwashing technique. See, in Get Out, a young Black man visits the family of his white girlfriend, experiencing an increasingly ominous series of microaggressions until the reveal comes. He's been lured there to be kidnapped, sold into a form of slavery, and lobotomized so that his body can be hijacked by the white person who purchased him. Part of what makes it possible is a kind of hypnosis, which separates a kind of hypnosis which separates the consciousness of the victim from the body control. It's particularly horrifying because it works as a metaphor for not only the literal history of slavery, but for cultural appropriation and the use of social niceties to enforce social hierarchies. But as Peele explained Thursday on Twitter, the Sunken Place has bigger implications. Dan, we going on Twitter? Let's see. We're all in the Sunken Place. He tweeted soon after he elaborated on what that meant. We're marginalized. No matter how hard we scream, the system silences us. The Sunken Place means we're marginalized. The Sunken Place has become an expression of frustration for people who feel more marginalized than ever in the age of Trump. Get Out is very important to me. It is not, however, my favorite Jordan Peele book. My favorite Jordan Peele movie, Nope, is my favorite Jordan Peele movie. And they do also have that one playing at Marcus. So I am going to go there and watch that eventually. I think it's only like on like Wednesdays and Sundays or something though. So I need to make my plans, my movie plans. I think Get Out. Let's go back to my notes about what it did to change the. So that's Get Out overall. Back to Jordan Peele. Jordan Peele, after Get Out came out, he was considered like the up and coming horror director then. They were like, he's a genius. So then he started with Us. I think Us is a little too abstract um it's hard for my brain to my small ass brain to like, you know, really get it. I well, and I haven't seen it more than like twice, and I think now I should rewatch that just to see like what the tea is. Let's talk about the ripple effect that it had in psychological horror. I think this was sort of the first. Certainly there's like, you know, The Shining we've talked about. There are other psychological horror movies. But I think this Get Out was one of the first truly psychological horror, like in the 2010s, that came out. And then there was like a ripple effect. We have had nothing but psychological horror basically ever since. And I think that I think psychological rose to the occasion with the rise of technology, because I think for the first time technology allowed us to be aware of ourselves in a way that as a species we've never been aware like this before. um we're aware of our not only ourselves but those around us. I think with the coming together that the internet allows, we for the first time, like, women have discussed their experiences with men and been able to sort of rally around each other. If you notice, many of our parents or our grandparents, our moms or our grandmas, they didn't have any other friends. And that's sort of on purpose. Like, men have benefited from keeping people away from their partners so that they don't know that they're being mistreated. And like, I don't know if that's conscious or not. I think that is just what happens in a toxic, but for the first time we are we have such community that we can not only discuss our happy moments together, but we can also discuss the things that we're struggling with together. And so I think that brings a level of self-awareness and awareness of the human experience in a different way than we've ever experienced before. And so trying to understand that with the first generation of people with technology at our fingertips, I think that the common person was itching for psychological horror because we need to see ourselves, and in a way that we've never needed to see ourselves in art before. Of course, art has always been imperative to art for the audience member to identify with it in some way. But I think that psychological horror is something that had not been tapped into, and there was really no need to tap into it because people were so unaware that their struggles were widespread struggles and that many people deal with those things, that they were trying to get through it on their own. I think a lot of our struggles have been alleviated also by that community. But they've also, there's cons to everything that has pros. So I think the internet as a whole, and not to bring the internet into the ripple effect into psychological horror, but I think it's pertinent to talk about. Um, I don't know. I think that we want to feel understood more than ever with the self-awareness, that they have become very important to one another. Anyway, I actually don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Okay. So after since Get Out, we've seen a real shift. We saw films like Us, which is Peele's follow-up. We saw, like, The Invisible Man is another good example. Hereditary. I don't know. I guess thrillers that are psychological have also been a big deal always. So, but I really think Jordan Peele the way. Peele really paved the way for horror in that way. Because I'm thinking of like Sixth Sense, and I'm thinking of, but those are also early 2000s. This is also like a uh, re up, right? So we have Hereditary, we have even, I would argue, like Black Mirror could have been inspired by Get Out, like this idea that you can take sort of supernatural ideologies and then apply them as commentary to real life issues. I think you could argue that Black Mirror was also heavily inspired by Jordan Peele. Um, Midsummer is another good example, and that sort of thing. So, I also, another really good psychological horror that I just saw was Companion. Um, Oh my god, Companion's so good. I will have to do an episode on it someday. I will go see it again probably in the theater before it's out. It was one of the mystery movies that I saw, and like it was like I got a notification that it was going to be a horror movie, and that was like the only horror movie that was coming out that Friday, so I like knew. Oh my god, it was so fun. Anyway, yeah. So, I think that just not psychological horror. I think artistry has come back in movies a little bit because of Jordan Peele. I think not that that was not always a big thing, but even like pacing, that sort of like, I think that he changed the game a little bit of like movies don't have to be this very um it doesn't have to be this specific formula, So the use of silence, the building of tension. I think that also jump scares were like much the tactical way that horror went about. And of course, there are jump scares in every horror movie that you watch, but I think that we started using silence, using tension instead of jump scares, like building your anxiety instead of just scaring you all of a sudden. I think that movie makers really started to realize that you need to evoke an emotion other than excitement, other than like adrenaline. Like, yes, you need to trigger adrenaline, but in like a real way. We also have, what's that movie about that blind woman, not blind, the deaf woman, horror movie, deaf, Hush. Hush. Hush is a like one of the scariest movies to me, and it's another good example. Anywho, it won all sorts of awards, and then that use of commentary. I mean, obviously, art has always traditionally been commentary about the things that are happening in the world. Art has always been that. I think that movies sometimes are either art or they are means to make money. Like, there are, you can look at most movies and like put them in one or the other, and you can argue all you want that like Marvel is art or whatever, but like those movies are created to make money. Those movies are not created to be art, you know and you can't convince me otherwise. Sorry. But that's what I mean by the difference. Other genres then have decided to move into that. Barbie being an example. Little Women. Not that Little Women is new by any means, but like Greta Gerwig deciding to create Little Women at the time that she did is commentary. So that's it on that. So yeah, I don't know, man. I'm kind of tired. So I'm going to go, I think. All right, bye. Love you. Oh, drink water, wash your face, and whatever. I'll see you next week. Happy Black History Month.